What exactly is happening? I have an iPhone 6 and it's been fine so far.
Yeah, for a small percentage of apps that when they fire up are crashing. What's interesting is that it's a lot more than what they've seen in the past, about 60% more than last year. But in talking to Criticism, the folks who did this report, what they said is most customers probably won't experience this. Where it could be a problem is particularly for enterprise customers. Like if you're a big company that has your whole workforce working on something, you probably don't want them using this just yet. He said maybe wait for an update or two, which usually roll out over the coming weeks.
Microsoft. It sounds like a Microsoft release where no one wants to get into the new OS.
Any apps in particular?
Facebook has had a lot of crashing problems. Dropbox has had some as well. Flipboard is another one. So it's just been a little bit. But you'll see the updates rolling out a little bit. The new iOS has about 4,000 new features or so. And so making that work, I think the developers have struggled with.
At the same time, PJ, as iOS is having some issues, you've got some research out showing that Samsung is losing a lot of people to Apple and the iPhone. What have you found?
Absolutely. So late last week, we surveyed the adult internet population online to see for folks who were going to be buying the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. And some of the numbers were surprising. For example, we found that 27% of people who currently own a Samsung phone are actually going to make the jump over to the iPhone at this point. And that's surprising for two reasons. One is Samsung right now has a nice suite of products that competes quite well against the iPhone, such as the Galaxy S5 and the Note 4, yet they're still willing to leave the Samsung family and make the jump. And the second thing is it reiterates that even with bug problems and things being sold out, the iPhone 6 is clearly the next great it factor for Apple, and clearly the hottest consumer electronics tech product out there.
Yeah, PJ, I was really surprised about the defections from Samsung. Is it about, two questions, I guess. One, is it about the bigger screen, and that people had gone to the Samsung phone because they could get, for example, the Note with a bigger screen? Or is it just about the fickleness of Android users who are willing to switch to iPhones, but iPhone users aren't willing to switch to Android users in the same way?
Well, I think you're now seeing enough apps that are compatible across Android and iOS, which really helps make that switch a little bit less painful. But I really think it's the coolness factor that Apple has again. This is the must-have release of a phone, and it doesn't really matter if you're on Windows Phone, Android, you're going to make the switch.
What's Apple doing to fix the current iOS 8 issues, Adam?
They usually put out patches periodically in the weeks after a release. Another one that they had was with HealthKit, where they found a flaw in the fitness tracking. That never was even released. They found it before it was put out to the public, and they're hoping to have that out by the end of the month. And so, these things, they usually just fix them over time.
You sound like an old person who's very relaxed about this.
What do you mean?
This is a big deal for these guys. They're out here with this phone where there's more upgrades available than there ever have been before. People want to jump to this phone. You wrote this wonderful story about the bug team that was waiting like a SWAT team to fix any problems as soon as they appear. And yet here we have this rash of problems with this thing. It's not a big deal?
I just tried to put it a little bit in perspective. It's 3.6%, so in a big picture, it's not
3.6%
of all the apps that are firing out on all the phones.
I will admit that my Facebook app on my old phone, I'm not.
My Facebook app on my old phone wasn't working.
See?
Was yours not working?
Mine was crashing as well. Is that why you weren't messaging me on Facebook?
I stopped using Facebook for a while, basically.
Well, but Facebook, I'm sure Facebook's going to see a hit in the third quarter as a result.
Facebook, Dropbox, I mean, these are apps that certainly that people use very, very frequently. So any problem that they have is a big one. And some developers have been, not too pleased with how it's been going on.
I was being facetious, but I wonder if some of those companies to whom working on the iPhone is a material part of their daily business and even indeed a week's worth of revenue might be facing some headwinds because of this. Have you heard from the app developers?
You got to reverse it as well, in that a lot of developers and these companies race to get out with the latest software release and perhaps don't do all the crossing the T's and the lowercase J's.
Right. So is it an Apple issue or a developer issue? Is really the question.
I think it's probably both. In that, I mean, this was a big release for developers. There's more than 4,000 different tools in there that they needed to kind of fine tune to make their apps work. And if everything is not working properly, then this will happen.